Hello and welcome guys to the 5th episode of my discussion series. Today we are going to have a great conversation with one of my dear friends Shreya, who is going to share her experience regarding her social work studies here in Australia, and also she is going to share how was the experience here at Australian University studying social work, and also how was the job prospect after getting her social work degree. So guys, let's welcome Shreya to our video, and let's learn from her experience. So Shreya, thanks a lot for agreeing to be a part of my video. I really appreciate it. It really means a lot to my channel and also to my viewers. So before moving directly into the topic, you want to introduce about yourself to our viewers?
Thanks for having me here, Bisho. My name is Shalinta. Actually, people call me Shreya. So I did my Masters of Social Work from University of Melbourne in 2019. Prior to that, I worked in Nepal in the international development sector, which is quite close to social work. And currently, I'm working as a local area coordinator in Brotherhood of St. Lawrence NDIS, which is the government program. Basically, it's the disability sector. So I'm a social worker who's currently working in the disability area.
That's great, Shreya. So I want to ask you a little bit about how did you get admitted into Masters of Social Work program from Nepal? Was it an easy process or was it a difficult process? What are the things that were required while you were applying for the master's degree? Can you share that process to our viewers?
Of course. So getting into Masters of Social Work for me from Nepal was quite challenging, because the usual practice in Nepal is that people go to consultancy. So likewise, I went to a consultancy and I was advised that the chances of me obtaining a visa if I applied for social work was very less. So I was encouraged to apply for other courses like accounting, masters in ERP, but I really wanted to do social work. So what I did was, like, instead of going through a consultancy, then I did my own application at home, and that's how I started my journey. And in the process, I was asked to supply a lot of documentation such as letter of motivation, my prior experience letters, letters of recommendation, IELTS score, and I also had to give evidence that I was working in a similar sector.
Okay, so basically you need degree, your previous degree, letter of motivation, letter of experience if you have, and English language,
and academic certificates as well.
So it was a fairly easy process because you already had some experience. Right?
It was fairly an easy process for me, but it was the way certain things were different, like in terms of education and everything, which I'm going to talk about obviously later. But in terms of the process, I would say that there was a different system in Uni Melbourne portal where I had to go and fit in every detail. So because I didn't have the support from an agency or a consultancy, I had to do everything by myself. So sometimes it was a little bit hasty as well. But overall, I wouldn't say it was a very hard process. But having said that, you still need to supply some evidences, like getting a letter of recommendation could be tricky
from your previous
professor or previous work. Previous supervisor.
And I also think, like, because University of Melbourne is one of the best university here in Australia, so maybe the process was a little bit more rigorous, and they needed more document.
And I think particularly with social work, they're, I think, a bit more strict, because the language requirement is slightly higher compared to other subjects, because it's a field where you have to speak and write a lot.
So what do you think, if you want to do Masters of Social Work here in Australia, do you need to do Bachelor in Social Work from Nepal, India, or other countries, or you can do any bachelor degree and you can get admitted into social work?
So I think you can definitely do any bachelor's degree and get admitted, but having said that, it's always an added advantage if you have a bachelor's of social work and you're going into masters of social work, because you have that foundation knowledge. If you have good experience, like, it doesn't have to be directly related to social work. It could be if you're working as a support worker, even in the aged care sector, or even in the disability sector, that's also going to be counted as an added advantage. But it's not mandatory that you have to have a bachelor's of social work. Like, for example, me, I did my bachelor's of finance, but I had a master's in development studies, which quite linked to social work. So that helped me a lot. But I know that there are people who've done completely, like, maybe, let's say, masters of accounting and switch to social work. But in that case, what I would say now, like, you might have to do some extra foundation course or additional course. But it's not impossible. You may have to study a little bit extra, maybe one semester extra. but that's not a roadblock. I would still encourage people to apply.
Shreya, you said earlier you applied yourself to the University of Melbourne without the help of any consultancy.
Yes.
So what do you suggest to the prospective international student if they want to apply to Masters of Social Work, let's say from Nepal or India or China or Philippines or some other country? What do you suggest? Apply themselves or go to consultancy? What do you think about that?
Look, I think I would say 50-50, because sometimes the first thing is like you need to identify which university you need to go. It's not a bad idea not to go to a consultancy. You can still go to a consultancy, but having said that, you have to be prepared. You have to do your own research, which universities you want to go, what is the fee, what is the course structure like, what is the curriculum like, and then go to a consultancy rather than just going by what they say. And because at one point when I was doing my application, once I got an offer letter from the University of Melbourne, I just had to do so many documentations for finances and those stuffs, and I was not very perfect at those. So I got some help from a consultant then, but it was not quite from the beginning. So at that point, like for documentation, for your visa process and everything, it's a good idea. But you can still do it by yourself as well.
So that's good. I think you have to do research before.
The first thing is I would say is like do a rigorous research, not just a normal research. Just compare universities, compare cost of living, look at the course structure, look at how the course is designed, like in terms of design, because social work is a field where you have to do a lot of placement. You just have to make sure that the course is timed in a correct way, because some universities, they have 2 courses a semester, break and then placement. Some it's very, very different. So you just have to tailor that.
And everything is available in internet, right? It's just a matter of searching through Google, right?
It's just a matter of searching.
Every university has a website, and all those information what you are saying is easily available, right?
It's easily available.
So let's move into your social work study. Your Masters of Social Work. So how was it while studying social work here in Australia? Because you had some experience from Nepal, and you did your university degree in Nepal as well. So in terms of study, what is the difference between studying in Nepalese university and studying in Australian university?
There's a very, very huge difference. I would say that it's completely different, because from studying in Nepal, we are more exam based. So when I did my social work, I didn't sit for any exams. There were no tests. There were no exams. All we were marked was on our assignment. So we were rated on our assignment, and we had to give video presentations, make a video shoot, and then presented to the class, and that's how we were judged. That's how we were marked. So that's something that was completely different for me, because I was used to learning, reading for exams. But that was completely different. And the other thing was, like, I think studying social work here taught me to be they say think beyond the box. So it made me think critically. Like our assignments, one of the major criteria in our assignment was critical thinking, which was something that was very new for me. And third thing I would say, in terms of writing, like for me personally, when I was studying in Nepal, I used to think that writing a lot gives you a lot of marks, but studying here, like I had to write less, be concise, be to the point, and still get good grades. So that was something that was very challenging.
So I think the major difference is in Nepal it's more bookish, and here it's more practical. You learn through doing, right? Learning by doing.
And I would like to add one more thing, particularly with a subject like social work, it's more practical learning, because according to the Australian Association of Social Workers, you have to have 1,000 hours of placement completed for you to complete your masters. So that means that you have to work approximately, if you're working full time, 3 months full time from 9 to 5 2 times within the study period. So that was something that was challenging and a very good exposure to practical knowledge as well. So there basically we used to shadow supervisor and learn how things were done. So rather than just being bookish knowledge and exam knowledge and assignment, so we were actually going to the field, looking at what others did and replicating it in our own practice.
Because you are doing a lot of placement almost for 6 months during 2 years time.
That's right.
So that means you can't work outside while you are doing placement. What do you think?
Yes, that's the thing, I think. And for international students, that could be a very, very big factor to consider, because finance is going to be a big issue. Even for me, it was a big issue because we were like on a student visa, didn't have a lot of finances, but I didn't have any option because I still had to work from Monday to Friday unpaid, and it was very hard for me to obtain jobs during the weekend only. So if so my priority was basically to just get my placement done and get my degree as soon as possible. But having said that, I know it may be hard for people, but there is an option to do your placement part-time. But I would still say that, you really have to be financially very sound at some point to be opting for social work, especially placement, because it's a big, big commitment.
So that means you need some kind of support from your family or from your partner. So let's talk about tuition fees. What does a tuition fee look like to do Masters of Social Work here in Australia?
So when I did my Masters, I paid around 33,000 annually. So which is similar to La Trobe University and other universities and RMIT for international students. So it's not just Uni Melbourne. That was the fee, and there was very less scholarships offered. There was I think 25% scholarship offered in the beginning, and there were grants here and there that I applied for, but not a very big money. So tuition fee was quite high
because you were international student.
Because I was international student. But once I got my PR halfway through, so then I was converted into an Australian fee paying student. Then it was quite reasonable. I think I paid around $2,500 per semester.
So that means like if you have a permanent residency, the tuition fee is way less, even less than half.
So
that is also one of the things people can look at. Maybe get social work degree after getting permanent residency, or be prepared if you are coming as an international student.
Absolutely.
So Shreya, when did you complete your course?
I completed my course on 2019 December.
2019 December. So let's talk about the job perspective after getting that course. So what do you think? Is it easy to get job after getting Masters of Social Work, or is it a difficult process? What do you think? Is it fairly easy to get a job here in Australia?
So I think that social work has a very, very, very good market in terms of the Australian current sector, like social service sector as a whole. And the beauty of social work is that it's not limited to just one particular area. So you can be a social worker in an aged care, you can be a social worker in the government, you can be a social worker in the disability sector, you can be a researcher in social worker. So there's different things that you can do as a social worker. So I think that the job prospect is very, very good and high.
So that means for you also it was a fairly easy process to get a job.
It was very easy for me to get a job, because when I entered the social work field, firstly I worked in my second placement, I worked as a research assistant. So that was my placement. Then I was hired in University of Melbourne as a research assistant. So I was just basically monitoring and evaluating a project. And then I wanted to move into more direct social work practice. Then I applied for a graduate role in social worker, which was a typical social work role in a hospital. So I worked there in Eastern Health for about 5 to 6 months. Then I wanted to move to something permanent. Then I moved to the disability sector. But having said that, it was fairly an easy process. And there was a lot of prospects and there was a lot of openings. And I wouldn't say it was a very, very difficult thing. But like, just to add on to this point, one thing I would say is that when I did my interview for a typical social worker, we were given a case study at the beginning. We had to read the case study and then present it to the interview panel. That was something that was very, very new. And the other thing is, like, when I studied social work at Melbourne Uni, we had to do a lot of theories. I thought that who would ask these theories in job interview?
And they asked.
But they asked me a lot of theories. So they gave me scenario and they told me which theory are you going to use. So that was something.
So interviews are more technical.
Technical.
Let's dive more into this topic. So what are the kind of role you can work with a social work degree?
It depends on which area you work. So like, so if you go to a hospital, so there's a separate social work department in a hospital where usually social workers assist with discharge planning. Usually most of their role is discharge planning. They provide crisis intervention, they provide counseling, they link people to various services before getting discharged. That's what I did when I was in the hospital. But now I'm working as a local area coordinator in the NDIS. It's not specifically social work role,
Yeah.
but I'm just helping people who have entered the NDIS
Yeah.
to develop the NDIS plans
Yeah.
so that they can access funding
Yeah.
to live a meaningful life.
Yeah.
So basically, social work is about helping people having a meaningful life, and so these are more direct one-to-one practice, but the other part of social work is also about policy and research, where you evaluate and where you research effectiveness about various social work programs. So it really depends on which sector you go, but basically the core of social work is to help people, and it's more one-to-one practice.
And also there is a mental health sector.
Yes, mental health sector in social work is also quite popular. So basically people provide psychosocial counseling, help people who are suffering from mental health problems, link them to various services, provide them counseling, provide timely checking, those sorts of things. And we also make goals and case plan and identify what are the way forward to those people. So basically we have one-on-one approach.
It's all about helping people. And I think it's good we have a social worker like you that is making making life easier for so many other people. Right?
Thank you.
So talking about earning potential, so with a social work degree, on an average, how much you can earn? Can you share a little bit about that?
Yeah, definitely. So social worker is not a very, very high paying occupation. In a graduate position, the pay is not so high. So approximately around 65 to 70,000. But
with a graduate,
but as you progress, you get more experience and your grade level increases. You become grade 2, grade 3, grade 4, and ultimately you can earn more. But I wouldn't say, but I would still say that the more experience you have, the higher your income.
So basically, if you are a graduate, somewhere between 60 to 70,000.
As a fresher.
As a fresher, and with 2, 3, 4 years of experience, you can earn.
And if you are in a managerial position, you can earn about 100,000 and above
or
as
even
well.
more, right? So it all depends on experience.
And it also depends. The other sector I think I should mention is it also depends on which sector of social work you go. For example, if you go and get into child protection, that's a very highly paid sector compared to other social work jobs, because the stress level and is very high in that job.
So I wanted to ask you about that as well. So some of my friends, they were saying some of the career path you choose after social work degree is very mentally draining, some of the areas of the social work. So can you share a little bit about that?
Definitely. I think social work is a field where you are helping people with problems. So when you are dealing with people, you're not just dealing with them, you're dealing with their problems. And their problems could be of any magnitude. It could be a simple thing like fixing maybe, a small cleaning problem at a home to, someone with a very, very severe mental health problem. So, and even with family violence, child protection, and those sorts of things. So when you are dealing with those sorts of things, definitely it's going to affect your mental health, and it does become a lot draining. But having said that, when we study social work in as a master student or as a bachelor student, you're always told by your professor, by your coursework, that it's not an easy subject, and you are trained to handle that level of stress. And if you work in a social work sector in Australia, you'll note that there's a lot of room for supervision and debriefing. So after each negative experience or after each stressful day, there is a provision for you to go and sit with your supervisor and debrief what happened, or vent out or write or have a way to express your feelings. So that really helps out. And I think that's part of our training to become a social worker as well. Like we are trained that in the university as well.
So I think as a social worker, you need to have a very high level of patience and empathy.
That's right. And having said that, most of the workforce today, they do have provision for supervision, every fortnightly supervision or monthly supervision, where you sit with your supervisor, where you talk about these issues and you talk about how you can handle these.
So Shreya, that was a great insight about social work and also your experience. I'm sure that will be really, really helpful to our viewers. Unfortunately, we don't have a lot of time, so we are slowly coming towards the end of today's video. Shreya, thanks a lot for being a part of my video, and I really appreciate it. So before ending the video, would you like to give some final suggestions to our viewers about getting social work degree in Australia, about applying from other countries? So can you share any final thoughts?
I think the first thing is just to do your research well.
Research,
know that you have to spend a lot of time in placement and plan your finances accordingly. And also know that it's a field where there's a lot of opportunities. So always be ready to accept challenges. And as I said, that it could be a it is a very rewarding career as well.
That's great, Shreya. Thanks a lot. So guys, I hope this discussion was really useful to you, and I'm sure you have got a lot of learnings from Shreya's experience. And if you want to get social work degree from Australia, and if you want to practice social work, then obviously Shreya's experience will be very useful to you. And I also hope you liked our today's video. If you like the content of our videos, please do not forget to leave your comments down below in the comment section. Also, please do not forget to subscribe to our channel. I'll see you again in next video. Until then, bye. Thank you.